I'm afraid that I have cheated my way onto the grander Cosmere. Many members of the World Hoppers and citizens of Silverlight must work long and hard to find themselves able to travel and survive in the spaces between worlds. Finding a way into the cognitive realm is relatively easy, but surviving in the realm, now that takes a little bit of luck and a lot of tenacity. However, I have found it easy to adapt, and even to thrive in this harsh environment. If I had traveled alone, I doubt I would have lasted a month. Cooperation and mutual gain are the means to civilization and long-term survival on the frontier. Dear Kessar is quick to point out that my talents in regards to persuasion and manipulation are more or less cheating, considering how I make people dance to my whims. Such are the effects of a properly wielded emotional allomancer. I remember when I first explained to Kessar the art of brass and zinc burning. On Scadrial, there are many accounts of the inner workings of the emotional allomancy, so I find it likely that you, dear reader, are already intimately familiar with these arts as a concept. The allomancer burns their metals and creates a field of influence that can easily be directed at a single person or in a general area. If the allomancer burns brass, they soothe and smother the emotions they desire. This acts like a suppressive blanket, dousing a runaway fire and bringing the atmosphere into a controlled and contained state. Soothers can act as a means of mob control, but one who is skilled at the art learns to soothe the wilder emotions so that the more desirable emotions can grow, and thus the soother sets the stage for his needs. If brass is a blanket that controls the spread of wild emotions, then zinc is the bellows that turns the fire of emotion into a forge. By inflaming the desired emotions, the writer takes the raw iron of his will and lets the emotional forge shape his blade. By stoking the hearts of men, they can be uplifted, giving them strength in times of desperation or courage against overwhelming odds. Men become agitated, desiring to move, to act on their passions, and are fueled into a frenzy. Any writer can start a commotion, but the gifted allomancer can shape men into weapons of their finest quality. These arts are subtle and beautiful. They craft an environment in which the desired emotions are carefully cultivated and harvested. But this is just the beginning. I believe that the emotional arts are some of the most powerful investitures in the greater Cosmere. The first and most important lesson you must learn about Allomantic emotional manipulation is that it is not mind control. I assume that you already know this, but it needed to be said. Yet after all these years of mastering the emotional manipulative powers of zinc and brass, I find the concept of mind control far inferior to what we can do. We don't shape thoughts, we condition thoughts. To the common man, these may seem nearly interchangeable. Imagine that you are asked to perform a surgery on a wounded soldier. If emotional manipulation can be likened to a surgical scalpel, then mind control would equate to attempting to perform the same surgery with a long sword. A surgeon only cuts where necessary and sees his patient as a person who needs a little reining in for them to return to the path they must walk. Those who experience my allomancy retain their free will. Obviously, I could not persuade a man to murder another, or to harm themselves. Besides the fact that such commands would be so obviously unnatural, people don't think with emotions. Emotions provide the framework that can facilitate action, but the thoughts must originate in the mind of the person being soothed or rioted. A common example in my experience is when I meet a fellow merchant for business negotiations. Such meetings are stymied by mistrust and fear of being taken advantage of. By soothing their fear and rioting their excitement, I simultaneously brush aside the validity of their paranoid thoughts and encourage their desire to make a profitable deal. These thoughts don't come from me, they were already in their mind. I assess the situation and manipulate the emotions that were tied to those thoughts that I needed to affect. It's all about predicting the thoughts and emotions of others. Mind control would be making use of men as if they were tools. This point is moot, for nearly all people are free in their thought and could never be persuaded to go against their inner nature, no matter how skilled the rioter or soother. But there is one exception in which men and beasts may and have been controlled by emotional allomancy. If there is a form of mind control, it would be achieved through hemalurgic intrusion. Those who are pierced by more than 3 hemalurgic spikes are subject to the manipulations and control of harmony. This intrusion ability is an inheritance from the Shard of Ruin. The more spikes that puncture the spirit web, the easier it is to override an individual's free will. In fact, it is possible that allomancers who can push hard enough could control such people. In a way, soothers and rioters can control minds, but only the minds of the damaged and the spiked. Yet, this might only be the start. Hemalurgic spikes are not the only way to damage and alter an individual's spirit web. They are just the most direct method that I know of. It has been documented that the mentally unstable are also susceptible to exterior manipulation. Perhaps an Allomancer that could burn brass hot enough could assume control of those with weakened spirit webs. Once again, this is a branch of study that has limited application and troubling implications. Most form of investitures are only realized in individuals who developed damaged spirit webs, such as the broken natures of the Knights Radiant and the snapping of ancient Scadrians. The abilities of rioters and soothers have been well documented and accounted for, but I wish to speak of the heightening potential of the Mistborn. In the world of Ash, Mistborn were called upon to act as assassins and spies. Their mobility and many layered power sets made them perfect instruments of death, especially when they possessed atium. The flaw of the system was how overlooked the emotional metals became in the training of the Mistborn. Why bother to manipulate the emotions of men when you are going to assassinate? I can see the reasoning behind this action, but I also know through experience that Mistborn were often shortchanged by this specialized training. The power to soothe unwanted emotions and riot others at the same time can turn the hearts of men into putty to be shaped. Often this is achieved by teams of soothers and rioters working in tandem, but such teams are hard to coordinate and sluggish to adapt to change. But one individual, one Mistborn, can simply take a room and sway an audience. It's almost enchanting, watching the eyes of others flit to you in awe, to watch hostile men slip softly into jovial conversation, and to temper anger before it can set in the mind. I am a gardener, trimming weeds in the garden of the Cosmere. I will not lie, I really am cheating at this. The 17th shard constantly reminds me how much I am meddling with people just by walking by them. I reach out to their minds instinctually, without thought, yet I cannot feel guilt when I know that even in passing I bring something special into their lives. It is easy to be captivated by the flashy abilities of the coin shots or lurchers, or the practical abilities of pewter and tin, but my heart and my talent will always be held by zinc and brass. They have kept me alive and provided me with all of my needed comforts, even when I find individuals who protect their emotions with aluminum-lined hats. The instinct to understand the emotions and pressure points of those whom I meet continues to light my path before my feet. So chastise me as you will, call my successes a hoax, and rebuke me as you desire. If we ever meet in person, I am sure you will come around to my way of thinking. In fact, I dare say I can guarantee it. Thank you for joining me for another Letters from the Cosmere. If you liked what you saw, or have any suggestions about other topics you wish to learn more about, please leave them in the comments below. I'd also love to know if any of you want to share your artwork, so please email me at my business email, theblueshifting@gmail.com, if you have any questions about that. Thank you, and enjoy your next trip through the Cosmere.